Welcome to Slash Forward. In this video, we're going to run through Friday the 13th, Part 3, which is in 3D, so you know we're going to have some shit flying at us. Let's get to it. We start with some real jazzy title music and then open on a mom-and-pop C-store slash residence. Through some expositional details, we discover this installment takes place the same evening as the end of the prior movie. We come to learn a bit about this grungy shopkeep as he goes about his business. To start, he'll put about anything in his mouth, and that's about it. When he tries to lock up his partner in crime, he sees there's been a snake in the rabbit cage. This appears to literally scare the crap out of him as he runs to the toilet. And I've just about had all I can take when he whips out a bottle of whiskey to drink while squatting. And it brings me to wonder if he just has life fully figured out. A noise alerts him and he searches out its source. He touches his mouth without washing his hands, which I suppose doesn't matter since he never wiped. And then he gets his sternum split lengthwise. His wife goes to give him a spot and ends up with a sewing needle to the back of the neck. And with that, we get to meet our group of victims on their way to a relaxing weekend at the lake with Chris, who's returning to her family estate for the first time after an unknown trauma from years ago. When a police officer appears behind them, they have a moment of panic and are forced to eat their stash. Luckily, it turns out the officer was just going to a crime scene, the convenience store from last night where the bodies of the victims are being hauled out. While driving, they have to stop quickly.
Stop! What is it?
It's a damn dude in the road. Aren't you watching? With Ralph dead, they need a new crazy drifter to warn the teens. Unlike Ralph, this guy's not all talk as he shares with them his pet eyeball. As they drive in, we see an enflanneled man watching through a window, as some men do. Chris enters the house cautiously and we come to find out it's just Rick, a friend of the family happy to see Chris return and be of dating age. They get their things and find their rooms, and then Chris and Rick get to work, flirting over some manual labor. When she gets the upper hand, Rick attempts to murder her. A scream sends them running upstairs where Chris finds Shelley in a wardrobe, apparently having crossed Mr. Tumnus. This turns out to be one of his turdish delights, however, as he succumbs to a tickle monster attack. He seems unaware of Chris's prior trauma, but then it's likely no one expected him to play these murderous pranks either. He manages to finagle his way into Rick's car with Vera, who's trying to get a little time away from the drama. This ultimately doesn't work as they're accosted by a small biker gang at the store. Shelley's nerves get the best of him when they go to leave, and he knocks over their bikes. This causes Ali to stare him down and then start smashing glass. Shelley takes off briefly before rounding back and partially driving over their hogs, achieving full redemption. Upset by the condition of his car, Rick and Chris head out to get some air. Somehow the cyclists end up at the property and start sucking gas. Foxy goes to check out the barn and, acting as though she's never been inside a Cracker Barrel, proceeds to touch everything. Loco takes a couple of gas cans to the barn, staying low like a Black Ops operative. Inside, Foxy's gone missing. He climbs up to the loft and finds her with a pitchforked neck. They pan down to her feet, but does it really matter? With an abundance of pitchforks available, Jason guts him and he dies slowly as the handle diddles our retinas. Ali finally makes it to the party, gets cross-bodied by Loco, and then gets his head turned into mush by Jason. Rick and Chris are having a heart-to-heart in the woods where she reveals her big trauma, which is that she was attacked in the woods by a strange man we recognize as Jason. She blacked out and has no idea how she got out of it, not unlike the ending of the prior two movies. Back at the cabin, Shelley has figured out how to get Vera to like him. He just needs a wetsuit and a trident. Luckily, he has these always on hand. However, he misjudged the reception and skulks off. Vera is then visited by a harpoon-wielding Jason, now donning the hockey mask for the first time.
What are you doing?
Murder. We then find Debbie and Andy after they're done testing the structural integrity of the hammock. She goes off for the traditional post-coital shower while he does the traditional post-coital handstands, which ultimately leads to Andy getting hewn from stem to stern. Debbie discovers his fate by way of dripping blood, and then Jason shows us what he learned from Mommy by giving us a callback kill to the first movie. Back downstairs, Shelley dies in quiet desperation, no one believing he's mortally wounded. Chuck gets tossed into the power grid, and then his old lady does the discovering bodies circuit before taking a hot poker to the gut. Upon their return, Rick and Chris begin to investigate. Going off in pursuit of a noise, Rick gets snagged by Jason, who proceeds to smush his head. Now down to Chris, she begins to find evidence that something is up. There are bloody clothes in the bath. She heads out to the barn where things get loco, and then runs into the house and begins a lockdown, which is thwarted by Rick. Chris and Jason play a classic cat-and-mouse game, and she turns the tables on him when she stabs him in the quad, ruining his CrossFit plans for the week. She's able to get to the van, which is now gasless thanks to the bikers, and then falls through the bridge. Jason tries to reach in, but some quick thinking traps his hands and allows Chris enough time to run. Jason finds the strength to break free when he learns he's earned a place at the table and continues his pursuit. They have a final showdown in the barn where Chris manages to hang him, but he's able to unbreak his neck and pull himself up, revealing that he's the weirdo she's been afraid of the whole time, as if the incident in the woods were worse than the murder spree. Ali has a second win, the only positive result of which was Chris building up the courage to place an axe in Jason's face. And then after another night on the lake and an ambiguous dream sequence, we're out. And that was the third in the series, which is starting to take a familiar form now that Jason has the mask, and the formulaic nature of the movies is starting to kick in. But we'll have some formula busters soon enough, so check back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.